My name is Sophie Anderson, and at 28, I thought I had finally built a life that had nothing to do with the man who threw me out with a suitcase and a trash bag when I was 18. But the day I walked into that will reading, he was already there, sitting at the polished table as if he still owned the world, grinning at me like nothing had happened. "This is good, kiddo," he said softly, just loud enough for me to hear. "Grandma's lodge is worth at least 1.36 million. We'll turn it into a real family business. Together." The word together hit me harder than any slap he'd ever given. He hadn't paid a cent toward my rent or food in 10 years. He hadn't called when I was sleeping on a friend's couch, working double shifts to stay in school. The only reason I was in that room was because of one person, my grandmother. Dorothy was the one who taught me how to scrub floors, not as punishment, but as pride. Who put cash in an envelope and called it emergency cookie money when she knew my bank account was at zero. Who looked me in the eye and said, "If he throws you away, I'll keep you." Weeks after her funeral, an official letter arrived, summoning me to the reading of her will. I knew she owned a mountain lodge. Our lodge, perched up on Willow Creek Mountain like a stubborn secret, but I never imagined it was worth over $1 million. I also never imagined the man who disowned me would show up acting like a loving father, already planning how to slice up her legacy. As the judge cleared his throat and flipped to the final page of the will, I felt a cold certainty settle in my chest. Whatever my grandmother had written in those lines, it wasn't going to be the family business my father thought. And when those words were read out loud, they would either save me or destroy me in front of the people who had already chosen to watch me fall. Before I tell you exactly what he said, and what I did the moment I walked out of that room, tell me, what time is it for you right now? And where are you listening from? I want to know just how far my grandmother's last wish will travel. The conference room felt too small for the amount of history crammed into it. The judge sat at the head of the table, papers neatly stacked in front of him, pen aligned with almost obsessive precision. On one side of the table sat my father, James Anderson, though I didn't think of him by his first name yet. Not out loud. My sister, and my mother. On the other side, me, and the lawyer my grandmother had trusted for years, Mr. Thompson. He adjusted his glasses, glanced over the top page, and gave me a brief nod, as if to say, "This will sting, but it's necessary." "We're here to formalize the last will and testament of Dorothy Anderson," the judge announced. "All parties present?" My father answered before anyone else. "Yes, Your Honor," he said smoothly. "We're eager to honor my mother's legacy as a united family." I almost laughed. United family. The last time I saw him before Grandma's funeral, he had been shouting at me to get out of his house, accusing me of being ungrateful, because I wouldn't drop college to work full-time for him. My mother, Linda, sat rigid, hands folded so tightly her knuckles were white. She didn't look at me. She stared straight ahead at a point on the wall, as if eye contact might break something fragile inside her. My sister Hannah, perfectly dressed as always, reclined back in her chair like this was just another business meeting. Her eyes slid over me with a mixture of curiosity and contempt, as if she were evaluating a competitor rather than her younger sister. The judge nodded to Mr. Thompson. "You may proceed." Mr. Thompson cleared his throat. "Dorothy Anderson, being of sound mind and body at the time of signing, hereby declares this her final will and testament." Sound mind. Those two words were already loaded. I caught the tiny flicker in my father's jaw, the smallest twitch, like he'd just swallowed something bitter. He leaned toward Hannah and whispered, "We'll make sure that phrase doesn't stand." My stomach nodded. They'd come prepared with the script. Play the grieving family, praise Grandma's memory, then quietly argue she'd been confused, manipulated, too old to understand what she was doing. They weren't here to grieve, they were here to win. As Mr. Thompson read through minor bequests, Small sums to charities, sentimental items to distant cousins. I could feel my father's impatience rising like heat. His fingers tapped a silent rhythm on the table. Hannah checked her phone under the table, her screen lighting up, then dimming like a heartbeat. My mother flinched whenever either of them moved, but she said nothing. I listened, kept my face blank, and repeated one thought in my head like a shield. Grandma knew them. Grandma knew me. She didn't sign anything by accident. Still, one question pulsed under my skin. Why had the man who disowned me walked in so relaxed, so sure, as if all he had to do was show up and smile? If you were sitting where I was, across from the people who broke you, would you believe a single word about family coming out of their mouths? Mr. Thompson's voice shifted as he neared the section that mattered. Even the judge seemed to straighten in his chair, sensing we were finally approaching the heart of the conflict. Now, Mr. Thompson said, we come to the disposition of the primary asset, the mountain lodge located on Willow Creek Mountain, currently appraised at approximately $1,360,000. The number hung in the air like a chandelier about to drop. Hannah's posture snapped upright. My father's tapping stopped. My mother's eyes finally moved, from the wall to me. In respect to the lodge, Mr. Thompson continued, Mrs. Dorothy Anderson writes, this lodge is my life's work, my refuge, and my apology to my granddaughter. My throat tightened. Apology. She had never had to apologize to me for anything, but she knew someone else should have. I bequeath full operational control and beneficial interest of the lodge, Mr. Thompson read, to my granddaughter, Sophie Anderson, under the following conditions. My father exhaled in visible relief, smiling broadly, and placed his hand theatrically over his heart. That's wonderful, he said, already turning toward me. See? She wants you to have it. We'll help you run it, sweetheart. I'm not done, Mr. Thompson interjected sharply. The judge raised a hand for silence. My father's smile froze. Condition 1, Mr. Thompson went on. For a minimum period of 5 years from the date of this will being executed, the lodge shall not be sold, leased, mortgaged, or otherwise transferred without the explicit, written consent of Sophie Anderson. A muscle jumped in my father's cheek. Hannah's lips parted in disbelief. Condition 2. No family member, including but not limited to my son, James Anderson, my daughter-in-law, Linda Anderson, or my granddaughter, Hannah Anderson, shall exercise managerial authority, hold controlling interest, or issue binding decisions on the lodge's operations without the express written approval of Sophie Anderson. Silence collapsed over the room. My father broke it with a bitter laugh. She's joking, he muttered. She must be joking. Mr. Thompson looked up, expression neutral. Condition 3, he said, voice even. Should any family member attempt to contest this will, challenge Sophie Anderson's authority, or undermine the operational independence granted herein, the lodge shall be immediately transferred in its entirety to the charity Haven for Youth, and no member of the Anderson family shall receive any ownership, profits, or rights related to the property. Hannah actually gasped, one hand flying to her mouth. My mother shut her eyes as if bracing for impact. My father went very, very still. His eyes darkened, and for the first time, the confident mask slipped. That's insane, he snapped. My mother loved this family. She wouldn't threaten to give away everything to strangers just because of some childish language. Mr. Thompson calmly slid a document forward. This clause was drafted by Mrs. Anderson herself, in my presence, and reviewed multiple times. She was entirely lucid every single time, James. I stared at the page. My grandmother's signature was there, looping and firm, beneath a paragraph that read like a grenade aimed straight at my father's greed. If he pushed too hard, if he tried to grab what he wanted, he wouldn't just lose. We all would. And she had trusted me to hold that line. Anger flared in my father's voice. Or she was manipulated, he growled. People get confused when they're old. She was talking nonsense at the end. I heard it myself. You visited twice in 3 years, I said quietly. Every eye turned to me. You heard whatever was convenient for you to hear. For a moment, our gazes locked, and the history between us pressed down on the table like another stack of legal papers. The night he told me I could either obey him or get out, the way our hallway had echoed when the front door slammed behind me, the silence that followed for 10 whole years. I realized then that Grandma's clause wasn't just revenge, it was a test. Would I protect what she gave me, even if it meant burning what was left of my family? And if you were in my place, holding a legacy that could vanish at the first sign of weakness, would you risk losing everything to stop the people who already threw you away once? The formal reading ended, but the real battle started the moment we stepped out into the corridor. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting a sterile brightness that made every expression too sharp, every lie too obvious. Hannah stormed ahead, heels clicking like gunshots. My mother lingered behind the group, clutching her handbag as if she could disappear inside it. My father blocked my path, planting himself in the middle of the hallway with the practiced ease of a man who'd been intimidating people his whole life. We need to talk, he said. His voice was low, but not low enough that Hannah and Linda couldn't hear. About reality. I folded my arms. Reality is a signed will, and a judge who just heard it. His smile was tight, lips stretched without warmth. Reality is that you have no idea how to run a multi-million-dollar property. You've never managed staff, marketing, bookings, maintenance. You're a sentimental kid with a guilt complex. You will drown in responsibility. Good thing I learned to swim when you threw me out, I replied. His eyes flashed. Don't start with that drama. You were rebellious. You refused to work in the business. You chose to leave. I remembered the way he'd stood over me in the doorway 10 years ago, shouting that I could take my attitude somewhere else and see how far that degree gets you when you're starving. Funny how, in his version, I had simply chosen to leave. You disowned me, I said steadily. You told me I wasn't your daughter anymore. His jaw tightened. Words said in anger, he muttered. You know how family fights go, but this... He gestured toward the conference room. This is generational wealth, Sophie. Bigger than old arguments. Your grandmother wanted all of us to benefit. She was confused, manipulated, whatever. We can fix this. We work together, adjust a few things, make you a public face, and everyone wins. Everyone? I asked. Or just you? Hannah spun back toward us, eyes blazing. This isn't complicated, she snapped. You sign some papers, give Dad and me equal say, and we turn the lodge into a luxury resort. We already have people interested, investors. You think your little memories with Grandma are worth more than that? Those memories built the lodge, I shot back. While you two were ignoring her calls, I was learning every creaking floorboard, every guest story. She didn't leave me a cash machine. She left me a home. My father stepped closer, dropping his voice even lower. Listen carefully, Sophie. If you try to go at this alone, you will fail. Bookings will dry up, maintenance will bankrupt you, and when you finally crawl back, it will be too late. You'll have lost your chance at being part of this family again. Is that really what you want? For a second, the old fear tried to crawl back into my bones. The fear of being alone, of not having a safety net, of nights spent counting the last bills in my wallet. But then I remembered who had actually kept me alive. It wasn't the man in front of me, it was the woman whose signature was now protecting me from him. I already lost this family, I said. The day you threw me out, you made that choice for both of us. Grandma gave me a second chance not to crawl back, but to build something that's finally mine. His face hardened. The charm evaporated, replaced by raw anger. "You're making a mistake you can't fix," he hissed. "You think some charity clause scares me? You think I won't fight?" "I think," I replied. That's exactly what she was counting on. For a heartbeat, we stood in a standoff. His threat, my defiance, my mother's quiet sob behind him, Hannah's impatient scoff. Then he leaned in, almost nose to nose. "If you turn this into a war," he said, "don't cry when you lose everything. Not just the lodge, your reputation, your future, all of it." He walked away, Hannah at his side, their silhouettes receding down the corridor like a warning. My mother lingered, eyes wet, lips trembling, but when she opened her mouth, no words came out. She just gave me one broken look and followed them. I stood there alone, pulse pounding in my ears, the echo of my father's threat looping in my head. Would you call that a warning from a parent, or a declaration of war from a man who couldn't stand losing control? I drove up to Willow Creek Mountain that evening with my car packed full of boxes and my mind packed full of defiance. The lodge rose out of the trees as I rounded the last bend, familiar and wild at the same time. The wood siding that Grandma had insisted on maintaining every spring was weathered but strong, like her. The front porch